Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share an interesting story with you. In this story, I want to talk to you about a journey. The journey is called From Silence to Fluency. This story is very simple. The words are easy. The sentences are short. I want you to feel calm when you listen or read. Maybe you feel like you are at zero in English right now. Maybe you feel lost or shy. It is okay. I was there too. I remember the time when I felt like a beginner. I did not know many words. I could not make good sentences. When I heard people speak English, it sounded like fast music. I could not catch the words. I thought, maybe I will never be fluent. Maybe fluent English is only for special people. But one small idea changed my journey. The idea was simple. I told myself, Ariel, you can start from zero. You do not need to be fluent today. You only need to take one small step. This idea became my friend. One night I was sitting on my bed. My phone was in my hand. I opened YouTube. I saw many English videos. Some were long, some were difficult, and some had fast speakers. I felt afraid. I thought, I can't understand these people. Then I said to myself, I do not need a big step. I only need a tiny step. So I searched for very easy English stories. I found one short video with slow speech. I pressed play. I listened to the first sentence. Then I paused. I repeated the sentence. My voice was not perfect. My pronunciation was not good. But I felt a little proud, because in that moment I moved from zero to something. It was a very small something, but it was real. The next day, I made a promise to myself. I said, Ariel, every day you will do 3 small things in English. You will listen. You will repeat. You will write just a little. No pressure, no big goals, only small actions. So, in the morning, I listened to a short story. In the afternoon, I repeated some sentences. At night, before sleep, I wrote 2 or 3 lines in my notebook. I wrote simple things like, Today I am tired, but I studied English. Or, Today I listened to one English story. These lines were very basic. The grammar was not always correct, but the habit was more important than the mistakes. Every small line was like a small brick. I was building a house of English inside my mind. 1 week later, I wanted to do something new. I went to a small library in my city. There were many books on the shelves. Some were in my native language. Some were in English. The English books looked scary to me. The pages were full of words. I thought, I can't read this. Then I saw a very thin book. It had many pictures and short sentences. I held it in my hands. I told myself, this is your level now. Do not feel shy. From zero to fluent does not mean you jump to a big book on the first day. It means you start with a small book and grow slowly. I sat at a table. I opened the first page. I read the first sentence. I read it slowly. I moved my lips. I heard my own voice. I checked 1 or 2 words on my phone. It took time, but when I finished the first page, I smiled. I thought, I can do this. Maybe not fast, but I can. That day, something changed in my heart. Before that day, English felt like a school subject. It felt heavy. It felt like homework and tests. But in the library with that small book, English started to feel like a friend who was quiet, but always ready to teach me something new. I started to speak to English in my mind. I wrote in my notebook, English is my friend, not my enemy. I read that sentence many times. Slowly, my feelings changed. When I made mistakes, I did not feel so bad. I did not say, I am stupid. I said, I am learning. My friend English is teaching me today. This simple thought made my heart light. After this, I decided to bring English into my daily life in very small ways. When I brushed my teeth, I said in my mind, I am brushing my teeth. When I made tea, I whispered, I am making tea. When I walked to the store, I thought, I am walking to the store. These were very simple present tense sentences. They were short but powerful. They trained my brain to think in English. At first, it was strange. Sometimes I forgot. Sometimes I mixed languages, but I kept trying. After some weeks, I noticed a small magic. One morning, I woke up, and some thoughts came to me in English without effort. It was not perfect English, but it was natural. It was small, but it was real. I smiled and thought, my brain is changing. Another big step in my journey was shadowing. Shadowing means listening and speaking at the same time. It is like being a shadow of the speaker. One day, I found a slow English audio story. The voice was calm. The words were simple. I put on my headphones. I listened to one sentence. Then I tried to say the sentence with the speaker. I was late. My tongue could not move fast. I pressed pause many times. I tried again and again. It was hard. My mouth felt tired, but I also felt strong. I felt like I was training my mouth like a muscle. I decided to do this for only 5 minutes a day. Just 5 minutes. That was my promise. The next day, I did 5 minutes again, then 10 minutes, then 15. After some time, I noticed that my mouth was faster. My tongue moved more freely. Some sentences started to come from my mouth like water. I did not push so hard. This was a very important moment for me. I thought, this is how Zero moves slowly toward fluent skills. Not by magic, not by one big trick, but by small daily training. Another simple tool I used was my phone recorder. One evening, I opened the voice recorder app. I felt shy. I do not like my voice. But I said, Ariel, today you will talk for just 1 minute in English. Only 1 minute. Do not stop.
Do not worry about mistakes. Just talk. So I pressed record. I started to speak. I spoke about my day. I spoke about my breakfast. I spoke about the weather. I said things like, today the weather is warm. I ate eggs and bread. I studied a little English. My sentences were not perfect. I repeated words. I made grammar mistakes, but I did not stop. After 1 minute, I pressed stop. Then I listened. At first, I felt a little embarrassed. I heard every mistake, but then I listened again with a different heart. I told myself, this is not a test. Okay, this is the first step. This is my real zero. From here, I can grow. I decided to record 1 minute every day. Little by little, my 1 minute became 2 minutes, then 3. My voice became clearer, my pauses became shorter. My confidence became stronger. Each recording was a small stone on the road from zero to fluent skills. Bend slowly. I also started to change the world around me into English. I did not move to another country. I did not join a big school. I only changed small things. I changed the language on my phone to English. At first, this was scary. I saw new words on the screen. I did not understand everything, but I told myself, this is good. Ow. Now English is part of my daily life, not just part of my study time. Every time I unlocked my phone, I saw English words. I saw words like settings, gallery, messages, battery, and many more. I did not translate them again. I just saw them many times. Slowly they became normal. This is how the brain works. When it sees the same word many times, that word becomes a friend, not a stranger. Kikai. I also followed some English pages and channels. I wanted to see English when I opened social media, not only my native language. Of course, one of the channels I love is English. Spoken Stories. Here I can share stories with you. Here we can walk together from zero to fluent skills. Another helpful habit was reading simple things every day. I did not start with big novels. I did not choose difficult books. I started with short posts, small stories, and easy dialogues. Sometimes I read the same story many times. The first time I read it slowly, I checked new words. I felt a little tired. The second time I read faster, I understood more. The third time it felt easy. It felt like I was reading in my own language. This feeling gave me hope. I understood that repetition is not boring. Repetition is like watering a plant. The more you water it, the stronger it grows. One day I was on a bus. I had 10 minutes before my stop. I opened a small English story on my phone. It was only 1 page. I read it quietly. I looked out of the window. I imagined the characters in the story. For the first time, English did not feel like a heavy lesson. It felt like a small movie in my mind. That day I realized something important. Fluent skills are not only about speed. They are not only about big words. Fluent skills are also about comfort. When you feel comfortable with English, your heart relaxes. When your heart relaxes, your brain can work better. K. Another step on my journey was speaking to myself in English. It sounds funny, but it helped me a lot. When I was alone in my room, I stood in front of the mirror. Tekken. I looked at my face. I smiled a little. Then I said, "Hello, Ariel, how are you today?" Then I answered, "I am fine, thank you." Today I studied English. After that, I asked another question, "What did you do this morning?" I answered again. I said, "I ate breakfast." I watched a small video in English. I cleaned my room. This was a simple mirror. Dialogue. I was the teacher and the student. I was the person who asked and the person who answered. There was no fear. Nobody was listening. Only me and my reflection. Day by day, my mirror English became smoother. I did not need much time. Sometimes only 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. But these minutes gave me power. I started to see that I can make sentences. I can ask and answer. My brain started to trust my mouth. I also used questions during the day. When I walked, I asked myself in my head, "What can you see now?" I answered, "I can see cars. I can see trees. I can see a small shop." When I ate, I asked, "What are you eating?" I answered, "I am eating rice. I am drinking tea." Oh? These tiny question and answer games made my thinking faster. Slowly, I did not need to translate from my own language. The English words came first. Another strong step came from listening practice. I watched easy videos. I listened to simple podcasts, but I changed my way of listening. I did not try to understand every word. If I tried to catch every word, I felt stressed. So, I changed my goal. I said, "Today, I only want to understand the main idea, not every detail." This helped me relax. I listened to one short clip many times. The first time I just listened. The second time I listened and tried to catch some key words. The third time I listened and repeated some sentences. My ears became stronger. I also noticed a nice surprise. Sometimes, when I watched a second or third video from the same speaker, I could understand them better. Frank. Not because the English was easier, but because my ears were used to their voice, to their speed, to their accent. I learned that fluent skills are not only about words and grammar. They are also about getting used to different voices, different ways of speaking. Another memory from my journey is about a small group I joined. It was not a big class. There were just a few learners like me. We meet once a week online. Our English was not perfect. We all made mistakes. But we had one rule: no laughing at mistakes. We could laugh together but not at each other. In this group, we practiced speaking. Sometimes we read a short story. Then we talked about it. Sometimes we shared one small thing from our week. We said things like, "This week I watched an English movie." Or, "This week I learned 10 new words." When it was my turn to speak, I always felt my heart beat fast. My hands became a little cold, but I spoke anyway. I told myself, "Ariel, you are safe here. These people understand you. They are learning too." After each meeting, I felt happy and proud. My sentences were not perfect, but they were real. They were mine. I saw that speaking, even with mistakes, is better than staying silent with perfect grammar in your head. Fluent skills grow in real conversation, not only on paper. UK. One of the most beautiful moments on my road was the first time I felt English helping another person. One day, a new learner joined our group. They were very shy. They said, "My English is very bad. I am at 0." I smiled. I remembered my own 0. I told them, "It is okay. We all start from 0. You are not alone." Then I spoke slowly and clearly. I wanted them to understand. Later, they sent me a message. They wrote, "Thank you, Ariel. Your simple English helped me. I understood you." That message made me feel warm inside. I thought, my journey is not only for me. My journey from 0 to fluent skills can give light to other people too. That thought gave me new energy to keep going. Another important tool on my journey was writing. I did not write big essays. I did not write perfect letters. I just write small pieces every day. Sometimes I write 3 sentences about my day. Sometimes I write a tiny story from my imagination. Sometimes I wrote about my feelings. I wrote things like, "Today I feel tired, but I will still practice," or "Today I feel happy because I understood one video." When I wrote, I did not use difficult words. I used simple words. I focused on being clear, not on being fancy. Writing helped me see my English. When the words were on paper, I could read them. Again. Cow. I could see my mistakes. I could correct them. Slowly, my sentences became more natural. One day, I compared an old page and a new page in my notebook. The old page had many short, broken lines. The new page had longer, smoother sentences. I smiled and said to myself, "Look, Ariel, this is proof you are not at 0 anymore. You are moving, even if you did not feel it." Every day, the progress was growing quietly, like a tree growing under the soil. Another gentle trick I used was to mix fun with learning. I knew that if I felt bored, I would stop. So, I looked for things I enjoy. I like music, so I listened to easy English songs. I did not need to understand every word, I just followed the feeling. Sometimes I searched for the lyrics. I read them while I listened. I saw new words inside the song. They stayed in my memory longer because they were connected to rhythm and emotion. I also played small word games. I looked around my room and said the names of things in English. I chose one word and tried to make 3 or 4 sentences with it. These small games kept my brain awake and happy. Little by little, my relationship with English changed. In the beginning, English was a mountain big and scary. Later, English became a road, long but possible. And then slowly, English became like air around me. It was on my phone, in my songs, in my thoughts, in my small group. It was in my notebook and in my mirror conversations. I realized something deep. Fluent skills are not one big moment. Fluent skills are many small moments, added together day after day. Another important part of my journey was listening more. I started with very short videos. I listened to one video many times. The first time I only listened. I did not try to understand every word. The second time I tried to catch some words. The third time I repeated some sentences aloud. Oh, my mouth learned the sounds. My ears learned the rhythm. My ears learned the rhythm. Slowly, English became clearer. I could understand simple sentences without thinking. I also started to sing English songs. I did not care about mistakes. Yo, I followed the melody. I repeated the words. This helped my pronunciation. I could say words more clearly. I could speak faster. Singing made learning fun. I also watched English cartoons. Cartoons were simple. The voices were clear. The sentences were easy. I paused and repeated sentences. I acted like the characters. Sometimes I spoke alone in my room. I pretended the cartoon was my friend. I asked questions. I answered myself. This made my brain think in English. English! My speaking became faster. Another trick was using small notes. I wrote one new word every day. I wrote one small sentence. Before sleeping, I read the notes. My memory remembered better. Little by little, the words stayed in my mind. I did not need to translate. I also used these words in my mirror conversations. Every small word I used made me stronger. One day I tried to talk to a real person. I was nervous. My hands shook. My heart beat fast, but I said hello. I asked a small question. The person smiled and answered. I understood a little. I answered too. My first real conversation was short, but it was a big step. I felt proud. I realized that speaking is more important than perfection. Every mistake teaches something new. Another memory I have is from the market. I went to buy fruit. The signs were in English. I read them quietly. I asked the shopkeeper, "How much is this apple?" Bain. He smiled and answered, "I understood." I paid money. I said thank you. It was simple, but it felt like a small victory. I felt confident. I remembered my first days. I could not say a word. Now I could ask and answer. My brain was learning fast. Another helpful habit was listening while doing small tasks. I listened to English podcasts while cooking. I listened while cleaning. Even while walking, I played English videos. My brain started learning everywhere. I did not need a special classroom. Learning became part of my life. Another important step was reading English books. I started with children's stories. They were simple. They had pictures. I read slowly. I checked new words. Sometimes I read the same story 3 or 4 times. Each time I understood more. I moved to slightly bigger stories. I never rushed. I understood one sentence at a time. My reading speed increased slowly. I enjoyed the story. I also started writing small paragraphs. I wrote about my day. I wrote about my feelings. I wrote small stories from imagination. Writing helped me organize my thoughts. It helped me remember words. I could make sentences more naturally. Another important tool was speaking with friends. Kicker, I had one friend learning English too. We talked for 10 minutes every day. Sometimes we asked questions. Sometimes we shared new words. We corrected each other. We laughed at mistakes together. It was safe. We learned without fear. Another memory is from a trip I took. I went to a city where people spoke English. I was scared at first. I needed directions. I asked in English. People answered kindly. I could understand. I ordered food in English. I bought a ticket in English. Every small interaction made me braver. My brain started to think in English. My mouth started to speak English naturally. Another lesson I learned was patience. I wanted fast progress, but I saw that little steps worked better. I celebrated small victories. Every new word, every sentence I understood, every short conversation, they all mattered. Slowly, I moved from 0 to simple sentences, then to small paragraphs, then to longer conversations. I also learned from mistakes. One day I said a wrong word. My friend corrected me. I remembered the right word next time. Mistakes were teachers. They were helpful. Another habit was to label things in my home. I wrote English words on sticky notes. Fridge, door, window, chair. Every day I saw the words. I repeated them silently. I repeated them aloud. My brain learned the connection. Words became familiar. Another memory is from a small cafe. The menu was in English. I did not know some words. I asked the waiter politely. He explained. I understood. I felt proud. A small step, but important. Core? Another important habit was setting goals. I set one small goal every day. Learn 5 words, speak 1 sentence, read 1 paragraph. Achieve it, check it, celebrate it. Every goal gave me confidence. Another trick was shadowing. I listened to a short sentence. I repeated it aloud. I copied the speaker's tone. I copied the rhythm. I did these many times. My brain learned patterns. My mouth learned to speak faster. Another important step was thinking in English. At first it was hard. My mind switched to my native language. But slowly I forced myself. What can I see? I thought in English. What am I doing? I answered in English. Small thoughts first, then bigger ones. This practice helped me speak naturally. Another tip was consistency. I studied a little every day. Even 10 minutes was enough. 10 minutes every day is better than 1 long hour once a week. Cow. Small steps build strong skills. I also learned that learning can be fun. Word games, crosswords, simple puzzles, English songs, movies, stories all helped. Learning was not only study. Learning became part of life. Another memory I have is helping others. I explained a word to a friend. I shared a small sentence. They smiled. They understood. I felt proud. My journey helped them too. Learning together is stronger. Another step was reviewing. Every week I look back at words, sentences, stories. I remembered. I corrected mistakes. I felt growth. One of the biggest lessons I learned is courage. Speak even when afraid. Ask even when nervous. Try even when unsure. Progress comes from action. Another tip is reading aloud. I read stories aloud. I listened to myself. I corrected mistakes. My pronunciation improved. My confidence improved. I also practiced writing every night. Short notes, small stories, feelings. Paragraphs became longer with time. Sentences became smoother. Words became natural. Another habit was listening and repeating at the same time. Podcasts, videos, short clips. I repeated them many times. My brain remembered sounds. My mouth remembered sentences. Slowly, I could speak faster. Slowly, I could understand more. I realized fluent skills are not sudden. They grow quietly, step by step. Every day, every moment, every small effort counts. Little by little, zero became simple sentences. Simple sentences became short paragraphs. Short paragraphs became small conversations. Small conversations became confident speaking. I also learned that motivation matters. A quote I love is, "Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day after day." Every tiny effort matters. Every small step matters. Another lesson is patience. Sometimes progress seems slow. Sometimes mistakes feel big. But if you continue, every small step adds up. Slowly your brain and mouth learn. Slowly your confidence grows. Slowly English becomes easier. Slowly from zero, you can move to fluent skills. I also found that speaking to real people helped a lot. At first, I was very shy. I worried about mistakes. I worried about my accent. But I decided to try. I spoke to shopkeepers, neighbors, and friends. Every time I tried, I learned something new. Sometimes people did not understand me. I repeated slowly. Hey, I used different words. Sometimes I had to ask for help. They explained. I listened carefully. Slowly, I could speak without fear. I started to enjoy conversations. I realized that English is not just words. It is connection. It is sharing. Another habit I made was to ask questions in English. When I watched videos, I paused. I asked myself, what does this word mean? What is happening now? Why did the character say this? Then I answered. Slowly, I understood more. My brain started thinking in English. Another tip was to keep a small dictionary. I wrote new words in a notebook. I wrote meanings in simple English. I used the words in sentences. Every day I read the notebook. Come. Even if I remembered the words, I still read. Reading again helped my memory. I also practiced speaking with family. At first, they were surprised. I said, "Let's speak English today." We laughed at mistakes. We helped each other. Speaking at home made me more comfortable. I also tried listening without subtitles. At first, it was hard. I understood only a little. but I kept trying. Hang? I listened again. Slowly, I understood more sentences. I could catch the main idea. Then I could catch details. My ears became stronger. I also learned to use simple sentences. At first, I tried to speak very well. I wanted long sentences. I wanted perfect grammar, but it made me nervous. Then I tried simple sentences, short sentences, easy words. My brain felt relaxed. My mouth spoke faster. My confidence grew. Another memory I have is from a trip to a park. I saw a family with children. I wanted to practice English. I said hello. I asked simple questions. What is your name? How old are you? The children answered. I answered too. We laughed. We played a little game in English. I felt happy. I realized learning can be fun. I also learned that mistakes are normal. One day I used a wrong word. My friend corrected me. I laughed. I repeated the correct word. I remembered it for the future. Every mistake became a lesson. Another habit I made was shadowing. I listened to a short sentence. I repeated it aloud. K. I copied the speaker's tone and rhythm. I repeated it many times. My pronunciation improved. My speaking became faster. I also found listening to podcasts helpful. Kang. I did not need to understand every word. I focused on main ideas. I repeated sentences. I learned new words slowly. I could understand more. I could speak more naturally. Another trick was to write daily. I wrote small notes. I wrote about my day. I wrote about my feelings. I wrote tiny stories. Writing helped me think in English. Writing helped me remember words. Nga. Writing helped me organize sentences. Another habit was to read aloud. I read stories. I read dialogues. I listened to my voice. I corrected mistakes. Reading aloud made my pronunciation better. I also found that setting small goals worked well. Learn 5 words a day, speak 1 small paragraph, finish 1 story. These small goals were achievable. They gave me confidence. I could see progress. Okay? Another memory is from ordering food in a restaurant. I was nervous. I asked for a menu. I tried to understand. I ordered in English. The waiter smiled. I understood him. I felt proud. I realized small daily actions make big progress. I also found games helpful. Word games, crosswords, matching words, small puzzles. They made learning fun. I learned words faster. I remembered better. Another tip is listening and repeating. I listened to short clips. I repeated sentences. I copied pronunciation. I copied tone. Slowly. I could speak more naturally. I also started thinking in English. At first, it was hard. My mind switched to my native language. I practiced every day. I asked small questions in English. I answered them slowly. I thought in English automatically. Another habit was using English in daily life. I labeled things in my house: door, chair, table, fridge. Every day, I saw words. I repeated them silently. I repeated them aloud. My brain learned faster. Another memory is from a small English group. We meet weekly online. Everyone was learning like me. We shared words. We practiced speaking. Corrected mistakes. We laughed together. It was safe. I practiced without fear. I also tried speaking alone. Mirror conversations. I asked questions. I answered myself. I repeated sentences. My mouth learned patterns. My brain learned rhythm. Slowly, I became fluent in small conversations. Another lesson was patience. Sometimes I felt stuck. I did not learn new words. I repeated mistakes and I felt frustrated. Then I remembered a quote, "Every day may not be good, but there is something good in every day." I looked for small wins. I learned one word. I understood one sentence. Small wins kept me motivated. Another tip is consistency. 10 minutes every day is better than 1 hour once a week. I practiced every day, listening, speaking, reading, writing. Slowly. My English improved. Another memory is from helping someone. A new learner asked me a word. I explained in simple English. They understood. They smiled. I felt proud. My journey helped someone else. Learning together is stronger. Another habit is reviewing old notes. Every week I read old words. I read old sentences. I corrected mistakes. I remembered better. Another lesson is courage. Speak even when afraid. Ask questions even when nervous. Try even when unsure. Progress comes from action. Another tip is fun. Learning is not only study. Listening to songs, watching cartoons, reading stories, playing word games make learning easier. Another step is celebrating progress. Every new word, every understood sentence, every small conversation, celebrate it. It motivates me. Slowly, zero became small sentences. Small sentences became paragraphs. Paragraphs became conversations. Conversations became confident speaking. I also learned that fluency skills grow quietly. Every small effort matters. Every day counts. Every mistake teaches. Every word learned stays in memory. Slowly, step by step, zero became fluent. English became part of life. I felt confident. I felt happy. I felt proud. My journey from zero to fluent skills is proof that patience, practice, and small steps work. Another important step was speaking without fear. At first, I hesitated a lot. I thought people would laugh. I thought I would make too many mistakes. But I realized that people are kind. They understand that learning takes time. One day, I spoke to a stranger in English. I asked for directions. The person answered kindly. I understood a little. I repeated the words slowly. I thanked them. It was a small conversation, but it gave me confidence. Another tip was using English while doing small daily activities. I named things in my room silently. I described what I was doing. I said, I am making tea. I am opening the door. I am cleaning the table. This helped my brain think in English. Slowly, speaking became easier. Another habit was shadowing short dialogues. I listened to one sentence. I repeated it aloud. I copied the tone and pronunciation. Oh, I did these many times. Slowly, my pronunciation became natural. My speaking became smoother. I also practiced listening every day. I started with simple stories. Ka. I listened once. I listened twice. Then I repeated sentences aloud, slowly. I understood more words. I could follow the story without thinking too much. King? Another important lesson was patience. I wanted quick results. At first, I was frustrated. I made many mistakes. I did not remember words. Then I remembered that small steps lead to big results. I celebrated small victories. Every new word, every sentence I understood, every small conversation, they all counted. Another memory is from watching English movies. I started with subtitles. I read and listened. I paused and repeated sentences. Slowly, I turned off subtitles. I understood the dialogue. I copied pronunciation. I repeated sentences aloud. Watching movies became fun and educational. Another habit was reading simple books. I started with children's stories. I read slowly. I looked at pictures. I understood small sentences. I moved to bigger stories. I read one paragraph, then another. Slowly, I could read longer paragraphs. I understood new words in context. Reading became easier and enjoyable. Another tip was to write every day. I wrote small sentences. I wrote notes about my day. I wrote about my feelings. I wrote tiny stories. And writing helped me think in English. Writing helped me organize ideas. Writing helped me remember words. Yes. I also practiced speaking with friends. We spoke for a few minutes every day. We asked questions. We answered. We corrected mistakes. We laughed together. It was safe and fun. We learned without fear. Another lesson is to use English everywhere. Aka. I changed my phone language. I watched videos in English. I listened to English songs. I read labels and signs. My brain learned English naturally. Another tip was to review regularly. Every week, I read old words. I read old sentences. I remembered mistakes. I corrected them. Reviewing helped me improve faster. Yuka. Another habit was to challenge myself. I tried to speak English for 1 hour. I tried to write one story. I tried to ask strangers simple questions. Challenges made me stronger. Slowly, I could speak longer sentences. Another important habit was listening and repeating simultaneously. I listened to short clips. I repeated every sentence aloud. I copied pronunciation and tone slowly. My mouth learned patterns. My brain understood rhythm. Speaking became more fluent. Another lesson is to celebrate progress. Every new word, Every sentence I understood, every small conversation celebrated. It motivates. Another memory is from a small cafe. I ordered food in English. I asked questions. I understood explanations. I felt proud. Small actions create confidence. Another tip is fun learning. Word games, crosswords, puzzles, singing songs, watching cartoons. These activities improve vocabulary and listening. Learning is not only study, it is also enjoyable. Another important step is thinking in English. At first, my mind switched to my native language. Slowly, I practiced. "What am I doing?" I answered in English. "What can I see?" I said in English. Small thoughts first, then bigger ones. My brain started thinking naturally. Another habit is speaking alone. Mirror conversations, asking questions, answering, repeating sentences, acting like I'm talking to a friend. This helped my confidence. Another memory is helping others. A new learner asked me a word. I explained simply. They smiled. They understood. I felt proud. Learning together is stronger. Another lesson is courage. Speak, even when afraid. Ask questions even when nervous. Try even when unsure. Progress comes from action. Another habit is consistency. 10 minutes every day is better than 1 hour once a week. Every day I listened, spoke, read, and wrote. Slowly, my English improved. Another tip is to set small goals. Learn 5 words a day. Speak 1 small paragraph. Read 1 story. Achieve goals. Check them. Celebrate. Small goals give confidence. Another important step is using simple sentences. Short sentences. Easy words. Speak relaxed. My mouth speaks faster. My brain feels comfortable. Another habit is reviewing old notes, old words, old sentences. Correct mistakes. Remember better. Another tip is shadowing short sentences. Listen and repeat aloud. Copy tone and pronunciation. Repeat many times, slowly. Speaking becomes natural. Another memory is from ordering food. I asked in English. I understood answers. I repeated slowly. I paid money. I said, "Thank you." Small actions make big progress. Another lesson is patience. Progress can be slow. Mistakes happen. Continue anyway. Add small steps. Another habit is reading aloud. Stories, dialogues. Listen to myself. Correct mistakes. Pronunciation improves. Confidence grows. Another tip is writing daily notes, paragraphs, small stories, organize ideas, and remembering words. Okay? Another habit is listening to and repeating podcasts, videos, short clips, repeat sentences, copy pronunciation and tone. Speaking becomes fluent. Another lesson is courage. Speak even when afraid. Ask questions even when nervous. Try even when unsure. Progress comes from action. Slowly, 0 became small sentences. Small sentences became paragraphs. Paragraphs became conversations. Conversations became confident speaking. Every day matters. Every small effort matters. Every word learned stays in memory. Slowly, step by step, Zero became fluent. English became part of life. I felt confident. I felt proud. I felt happy. Ray. My journey from zero to fluent skills proved that patience, practice, courage, and small steps create real success.